I know there's going to be some swelling. My arm hopefully won't explode. Okay, here's my membrane where I can stick my hand in. Let's give it our first try. I'm really nervous. Okay, my hand in a vacuum chamber. 3, 2, 1. Look. That was only for a few seconds and not even that low of a vacuum. You can see already the blood starting to come out and my hand starting to swell.
Okay, so you noticed before that he said it's really sucking. Okay, yes, his skin will swell and the blood starting to come out because there is a sucking force that is pulling on every square inch of his skin. Vacuums create and produce a sucking force. Is that really so hard to understand? It can't be. The reason why it's hard to understand is what I'm going to say next. That's what bothers you. If outer space were an infinite and expanding vacuum universe, billions of light years across, that vacuum would produce massive suction and consume all the gas, oxygen, matter, and liquid on the Earth that would go and be forced into the vacant space.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's really sucking.
Did you hear that? He said it's really sucking because it is. That's why water or liquid appears to bubble boil, because of sucking. That's why the balloon expands, because of sucking. A sucking force on every square inch of the balloon, on the water, and on his hand. Do you need to hear that again?
Oh, wow. Okay, it's really sucking.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Whoa, look. That was only for a few seconds and not even that low of a vacuum. You can see already the blood starting to come out and my hand starting to swell.
Yeah, the blood starting to come up and be pulled, and his skin being pulled. And yes, you guessed it, it's this guy. I know he knows the truth, but they cannot maintain it. Why? It's really as simple as this. We're on Google, the dictionary, the word and its definition, suction. The production, to produce, a vacuum. How? By the removal of air. To what? In order to force fluid or matter into a vacant space or procure adhesion, like with a suction cup. Physicians used a tube to suction out the gallstones. Outside pressure didn't make this happen. Suctioned out the gallstones. Okay, so in reality, if outer space were an infinite and expanding vacant space, billions of light years across, all the gas, oxygen, and liquid matter on the Earth would be forced into a vacant space per suction. Suction, the production to produce a vacuum. How? By the removal of air. To what? In order to force fluid into a vacant space, or to force gallstones into the vacuum tube. Why is that so hard to understand? I know, because it debunks your reality. This proves that whatever is beyond the skies of the Earth cannot be an infinite and expanding vacuum universe billions of light years across. Because if it were, it would produce suction. Suction, the definition, the production. To produce a vacuum. How? By the removal of air. In order to force fluid or matter into a vacant space. The vacant space is the vacuum. Or procure adhesion, like with a suction cup. And in a couple of my videos, I affix a suction cup to a glass or a surface. I press down to push out the air to create the vacuum with little strands of toilet paper on top of the suction cup that no outside pressure pushes down on. It is the mini vacuum inside the suction cup that procures adhesion due to suction, the production to produce a vacuum. How? By the removal of air to what? To force fluid into a vacant space. The vacant space is the vacuum. Vacuums suck. They create a sucking force. And that is a fact. Vacuums are nothing? No, they're the absence of air. They produce a sucking force. Therefore, if outer space were an infinite and expanding vacuum vacant space universe, billions of light years across, it would produce massive suction that would force fluid and matter into it, into a vacant space. The vacant space is the vacuum. So is it really that hard to understand why a balloon expands in a vacuum? It is due to suction, a sucking force applied to every square inch of the balloon. That's why it expands. It's being sucked. Water or liquid will appear to boil because it's attempting to fill or be forced into the vacant space. Suction is pulling on it, just like it was pulling on the skin of his arm. That's why he said,
Wow. Okay, it's really sucking. Okay, it's really sucking.
and who is it? Yeah, the usual suspect over at the Action Lab. He knows the truth, and he knows that vacuums suck and create suction, a pulling force. Need I say any more? Believe what you want. I will only believe what can be demonstrated. Vacuums suck. They create suction. And we know gas and oxygen move in all directions at high velocity, which I don't think that's going on in this room, but it is moving in all directions. And you add that to a sucking force, and it's one violent reaction of all the gas, oxygen, matter, and liquid on the Earth, filling an infinite and expanding vacuum universe. If outer space were an infinite and expanding vacant space, billions of light years across, it would produce massive suction that would relieve the Earth of almost everything. I think the Earth itself would explode in all directions. The sun, a gas ball surrounded by an infinite vacuum, that is asinine, people. Liquid helium, it doesn't matter. It would be a liquid. The liquid forced into the vacant space. It's so easy to understand suction, the production of a vacuum, how by the removal of air to force fluid, liquid helium, into a vacant space. The sun could not exist in, within, or surrounded by an infinite vacuum universe. It is ridiculous. Wake up. Outer space is fun on the movies, Star Wars, The Mandalorian, but in reality it's fake. Vacuums suck. They create a sucking force. Oops. I win, you lose. You can win too if you want to face reality.